Alright guys, in today's video we're going to be working on this 2000 Toyota Camry. It's got the 4-cylinder 5S-FE engine mated up to the Aisin A140e automatic transmission. This particular combination has a separate differential attached to the automatic transmission. If we take a look at the scheduled maintenance for Toyota, alright, laying up here on the hood here, special operating conditions. So when I show you the interval for maintenance, they talk about special operating conditions. So these are things that you're using the vehicle above normal. And what we care about with the differential is towing, or using a camper or a car top trailer, car top carrier. They're going to tell you to replace the differential oil on a different cadence if the vehicle is being used for these purposes. The second thing I'm going to show you is they talk about what you do when you're going to do inspections. And so for the differential, what they're looking for is to check for leaks. So if we then start looking at the actual car section of this, so we don't look at the truck section, but we want to look at the car section, what you'll find is every 15,000 miles, if you have that special condition, then they're going to want you to replace the differential oil. That's only if you're doing the towing or you have the car carrier or something like that. Something that would be unusual for a car to be doing. That's more like a truck thing. But also inspect the differential every 15,000 for leaks. And if you go through this whole manual, right, they'll just keep going in that kind of same cadence. At 30,000, they're going to change the things that you do, but you're not going to see to replace this differential oil. You're just going to see inspections. And we go through this whole manual until we get to the end. And then we're going to see at 120,000 miles, that's the end, right? Because this section is the end of the cars, and it's going to start trucks. It only goes up to 120,000, and it never says to replace the differential oil on normal operating conditions. That's because it's considered for the lifetime of the vehicle. But, you know, what's the life of the vehicle? I don't think the engineers really expected these vehicles to be on the road 25 years, although they're very well built and very well engineered. Here's what I'm going to tell you. My view is when you roll over, and so you end up at the next 30,000, that puts you at 150,000 miles, that's the point I would replace this fluid. It's the same thing I would do on the automatic transmission itself, or a transaxle, whichever way you want to call it. The A140e, I would change the transmission oil, and I would also change the differential oil. So that's what we're going to do in this video today. Let me go show you on the dipstick for the transaxle what it does to refer to how to check the differential oil fill. All right, so if we take a look at the automatic transmission dipstick and we pull it up here, you'll see if we zoom in, you'll see the writing says check differential oil level at filler plug. See repair manual for details. Right? So they're giving you the hint here that the differential is not part of the same fluid reservoir as the transmission itself. We actually have to go under the vehicle to see this fill plug on the differential. All right, let me show you a couple of pages, because what you'll find is this procedure is not documented in the service manual in any level of detail. Here is a blow-up of the transmission, the A140e. Here's the differential side cover. There's the filler plug. It's going to be facing the rear of the vehicle. You'll see when we get down there. And then the drain plug is going to be on the bottom. Here's another kind of a view of that. We'll blow up here. So there's the drain plug. There's the fill plug. They tell you that it's important to replace the gasket. So you can't reuse the little metal sealing ring that you'll find on both of these. It's just like the drain plug on the transmission itself. It has to be replaced. And then the last thing that is in the service manual that's useful is they come in here and they tell you when you're looking at the A140e, and Toyota calls this a transaxle, not a transmission, because it's front-wheel drive. They use transmission for rear-wheel drive. They use the term transaxle for front-wheel drive. It's the same thing for what we're talking about. With the 5S-FE engine, the capacity of the differential is shown right here. So you can see it's very small compared to the actual transaxle. However, it does have to be a GM Dexron type of formulation. It does not use, just like the A140e itself, it does not use some of these later Toyota type transmission fluids. And I'll show you what we're using in just a moment. All right, that fill plug, 17 millimeter socket, 6-sided socket, not a 12-point. It's going to be on there really tight because of the awkward position you're going to be in since you're not on a lift. If you're on a lift, you're not going to have this problem, but if you're on jack stands like we are, you're going to be laying on your back, so you can't get a lot of leverage. We're going to use a breaker bar for the clearance. I'll show you in a little bit. There's very little clearance to get many types of ratchet wrenches in here, and you're not going to get any kind of power tools up here. To get more leverage, I'm also going to have this tool. So this is just an extension that can go on the breaker bar to allow us to get more leverage. If you don't have a tool like this, you might think of a piece of pipe, but again, remember, you do not have a lot of clearance, right? So a tool like this, I can move up closer to the head, and I don't have to have more than maybe another 8 inches of clearance to work with. So let's go ahead and get underneath the vehicle, and I'll show you how we get this off. All right, so under the vehicle, this is the pan for the transmission, and there's the drain plug for the transmission. And if we follow it straight back, or kind of like an angle back, there's the drain plug for the transaxle. It's kind of got some grease and crud on it, but that's it right there. They're both the same size fastener. They both take a 10 millimeter hex type socket, like an Allen type socket. So that would be the size for the drain plug itself. Now the fill plug is a 17 millimeter, and it's on the back here. So let me get up a little bit further and I'll show you where the fill plug is. All right, so there's that differential drain plug. And if we follow it right back up on the back side here, right there in the center, if I can zoom you in without blocking your light, there's your fill plug. That 17 millimeter fastener right there. So we're going to pull that off first before we pull the drain. All right, just another view here. You can see there's not a lot of clearance here. This is primarily why I'm using a breaker bar, so that we can actually fit that 17 millimeter socket squarely on top of this fastener so that we have room to do so. All right, and then it's going to be lefty-loosey like any other type of fastener. Okay, breaker bar with that extension. Got this guy loosened up. You can come in from the passenger side around the exhaust pipe. Get your hand in here where you can use a ratchet. And then get this guy all the way off. Now we can go down below. Well, we'll leave them on here just a little bit because I do not have the drain pan in position yet. But we can go ahead and pull the drain plug and go ahead and drain the fluid. All right, let's get the drain plug off now that we're sure that we can refill it. You got more leverage underneath to get this guy. The problem with the one in the back that can be a pisser is you're laying on your back and you don't have a lot of clearance. All right, we'll let that drain out, and then we'll come back and show you the fill step. All right, this is our old drain plug. What we want to take a look at when we take something off like this, there's a little magnet on the end, and we're just going to be inspecting for metal. So in this case, we're just seeing like a powdery substance, and that is normal wear and tear. What you don't want to see is big slivers or chunks of metal. If you saw big slivers or chunks of metal, that would be a Danger Will Robinson moment. So in this case, we're good. We're just going to clean that off. And then, like we showed in the service information earlier, this crush washer, this seal, can't be reused. We're going to have to replace it. So we're just going to clean under the ridge of this drain plug. We're going to end up doing the same thing to the fill plug as well, and I'll show you that in a moment. We're going to replace that with a genuine Toyota 90430A0003. This is the number in North America, like the United States and Canada. They use this number for vendors that manufacture this for Toyota locally. If you're outside North America, it's more than likely going to be a 90430-18008. This is from a supplier based in Japan. They are exactly the same, right? Exactly the same. So we're going to pop one of these on. There's a flat side and a round side. I like to put the flat side against the base of the fastener, and the round side goes up against the metal, but there's nothing in the manual that says you have to do it one way or the other, just a personal preference. We're going to put this guy back down, and we're going to torque him to 36 foot-pounds. All right, we're just going to clean the surface that's going to make contact with that sealing washer. We'll hose this whole area off for the spillage with brake clean when we're done. We're going to start this guy by hand because this differential casing is an aluminum alloy, so we don't want to cross thread or strip anything. And then we'll give it our 36 foot-pounds of torque. Okay, we're done with that. It's going to be really difficult to torque the rear one. I'll show you what I'm going to do for that. All right, we're just going to give our fill plug a little wiping here. Get the sealing washer off this guy. This one is got a deformity in it. Might have to get a little tool to coax him off. Yep, got to get a little pry bar to coax him off. All right. These little seals are aluminum, so they can sometimes get a little distorted. This one is a lot distorted. The fill plug itself is steel. We're going to have to get some more persuasion on here. Going to have to get a pair of pliers on this guy. All right, we're just basically going to unthread this sealing washer since it's stuck. Butterfingers today. All right, let's take this guy. Yeah, see, that one's on just fine. What happens is when you torque it down, this gets squished. It's a crush washer. That's what creates the seal. That's what causes it sometimes to get stuck on there. All right, let's go ahead and fill this guy back up so we can reinstall this. And when we do reinstall it, it again is going to get torqued to 36 foot-pounds. All right, so the way we're going to fill this up, you see I've got this clear plastic tube running into the fill port. And then I'll show you where we've got that sitting up on top. Right, then we got this hose laying right on top on the driver's side. And then we routed it just like that you saw from below. All right, what we're going to be filling this with is Toyota automatic transmission and power steering fluid. It's part number 00718-ATF00. This particular one is important for this particular series of differential as well as the automatic transmission because this is one that's based on GM Dexron technology. So that's what the additive package that this particular unit takes is. All right, so we're just going to, as you look down there at the pipe, gravity is going to do all the work for us. Just pull it a little bit this way so that gravity can help us a little bit more. And then we're going to add this quart. I'm going to periodically stop and check to make sure it's going where we want it to go and not running onto the ground. And I'll bring you back when we get near the end. All right, so now as soon as you start to have some runoff, you're done. This little drizzle here tells us that it's full. Now we can install the filler plug. All right, I'm going to snug this guy up with the ratchet wrench, and we're going to see if we can get a torque wrench in here. All right, it's very important that that crush washer get crushed, so you've got to get a torque wrench on here to get the 36 foot-pounds. This is the angle I came at from behind the engine. I'll show you below in a moment. But if we zoom in right here, this is the handle of the particular torque wrench that I'm using. I'm using a 1/2-inch torque wrench actually, but it has a very slim head on it. And if we move to the side here, you can see I have just enough room to ratchet this guy. Right? And it's currently clicking, so we've got our torque. It's a tight fit, but we got a torque wrench on this guy. All right, guys, with that fill plug torqued and some brake clean to clean off the spillage, we're all done. We've got a little over half of the other container, which is what we would expect based on how much this holds. Looks like it's about right at the 16-ounce 1 pint mark. So we probably spilled maybe just a notch above that, but that's, that's part of the job. Make sure the vehicle is level for that last step. I don't think I pointed that out. So if you're on ramps, you're going to have to get the rear of the vehicle up on jack stands. That fill plug has to be level in order for this to work correctly. The way the service manual talks about is the level of the fluid is just 5 millimeters below where that plug goes in. So when you start having it flow out, by the time you put the plug in, that's the sweet spot. If you got questions or comments about this job, go ahead and leave them below and I'll try to help. If this saved you some money and taught you how to do it yourself, I'd appreciate you paying it forward and hitting that like button. And as always, thanks for watching.